Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
This the monster from the swamps, Briedis Rougarou Program.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF World Champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 451 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever by former heavyweight world title challenger, Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing this week?
I'm doing great, my man. How about you?
Always good when speaking with you, Eddie. We're going to dive straight into the review part of the show. There's only really one card to go over from last week, and there's only really two cards to preview. So I don't think we're going to have a very long show by any means. However, I think there's quite a bit to review for just one card. Obviously, we're going to be talking about that card that went down in Saudi straight away, but there's a lot to dig into there. Every fight was worth mentioning. Let's start there, of course. Let's start and finish there. The first and final card to mention, the only card. At the Kingdom Arena in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, it was live on DAZN. I watched it myself on TNT box office. I'm going to start with the first fight of the entire card, actually, that came on in terms of the schedule. We saw Willie Hutchinson move to 18-1, a unanimous decision over 12 rounds against Craig Richards, now 18-4 with a draw. That one was for the vacant WBC silver light heavyweight title. I have to say, that was probably the one fight, off the top of my head, aside from obviously the Bivol fight, that was probably the one fight on the entire card that I was most confident in picking a winner in. And my winner was Craig Richards, and it didn't come close to happening. Huge upset in my opinion there. Craig Richards was being beaten to the punch consistently throughout the fight. I felt that Willie Hutchinson was so much quicker than him, much faster hands. Richards as well was throwing single shots, not doing enough, not working hard enough. He was missing loads. He just wasn't working enough, to be honest with you. And as the fight went on, Hutchinson was clearly tired at times late on, but he was just being allowed to just fight in bursts, and then he'd go for a little bit of a walk, But they were eye-catching little moments. He'd throw a nice combination. He'd just step out of range, and because he had much quicker feet as well than Craig Richards, he'd just go for a little walk, and Richards would be following him around the ring, not cutting it off properly, not throwing enough punches when he did get into range, and he was able to just go and have a little breather, Willie Hutchinson, and Craig was, in my opinion, just letting him off the hook, not putting enough pressure on Hutchinson. Craig did take a few massive shots in the 10th round as well. He looked close to being stopped, dare I say. Of course, he's a tough guy. I've got absolutely no doubt in his chin, and I think most people would have been on the canvas, taking those shots. He took quite a few, one after the other, and he did seem wobbly, but he didn't go down, and, that's testament to his chin. But, yeah, that was a bad moment as well, because I thought that Craig, prior to that, was starting to kind of, I don't know, he was starting to perform a bit better in the later rounds up until that moment there. But yeah, Hutchinson was absolutely dog-tired. I think, in the last few rounds, despite having a big moment there in that 10th. I gave Craig Richards the 11th round, but again, it was just a little bit too little, too late, and he needed way more urgency in that 11th round than in that 12th round as well. But yeah, once again, Willie Hutchinson was allowed to just switch stances throughout the fight, dictate the pace for pretty much every round, and he won that 12th round as well, just to put a cherry on the icing on the cake. He didn't even need to win that 12th round. I think Craig Richards probably won 3 or 4 rounds at best over the 12. I wasn't scoring it round by round, but Willie really did put on an absolute masterclass and a big upset. Like I say, I cannot praise him enough. obviously everyone knows Craig's a good friend of the show, good friend of mine. I really felt he'd win, but I've got absolutely nothing against Willie Hutchinson. I had him on the show a few weeks ago. Nice guy, get along with him well. He's a bit crazy, he's a bit nuts, but you know, he was so smart the other night, and I didn't quite know for sure if he had that in him. He boxed like a veteran. You know, he knew when to fight, when not to fight, when to take a little break. He was absolutely brilliant, and it was such a mature, coming-of-age performance from Willie Hutchinson. I tell you what, it was so impressive, and he's beaten Craig Richards much clearer than Dimitri Bivol, for example. So I think that win there, you know, styles make fights and all that jazz, but that win there was super impressive, and straight away, you know, he's a real player in the light heavyweight division domestically, and probably further than that, in all honesty, you know, because I think Craig Richards was a fringe kind of a fringe contender. I'd like to see Willie Hutchinson get the rematch with Lennox Clark, just because I think he'd go in there and stop Lennox Clark, to be honest, if they had a rematch. So I'd like to just see him go in there and right that one wrong, and that's it. I'd like to see him push on, but it's a bit of a meaningless fight at the moment. I understand that. Both guys are in completely different positions now. Willie Hutchinson's come back really well. But like I say, nice guy, really happy for him. And yeah, you can't begrudge him that. That was absolutely brilliant. Craig Richards had no answers for him at all. Wow. What else did we have on the card? Let's move to the next fight. Let's just go straight to the Bivol fight, actually. He's now 23-0. Again, Eddie, if you saw any of this or anything else, just jump in. Dimitri Bivol, 23-0. A TKO for him in the 6th round. He had his opponent Malik Zinad down in the first round. It was for the IBO and WBA Super World Light Heavyweight titles. Like I say, 6th round TKO for Bivol. They were both 22-0. Bivol now 23-0. Zinad now 22-1, of course. You know, fair play to Zinad. I think they said on the commentary he'd only had 4 weeks' notice, obviously, and you know, Bivol was obviously preparing for Artur Beterbiev. But yeah, Zinad, he had a little bit of success, to be fair to him. You know, he out-threw Bivol throughout the fight. You know, he didn't kind of stay in a shell by any means. Sometimes you're fighting a guy who's, you know, arguably pound for pound number one. You're kind of stuck in a shell. You freeze and all the rest of it. And, you know, you only want to throw punches to try and catch them, you know, with a counter shot rather than try to lead off and kind of set the pace of the fight. Sometimes we see that. So yeah, I give Zinad quite a bit of praise, to be honest with you. Yeah, he boxed well, to be honest, from range behind his jab. But yeah, he just didn't have the skills to match Bivol when the going got tough. And Bivol was clinical, as always, doesn't waste much at all. And he ends a 9-fight streak of winning on points. You know, he'd gone 9 fights in a row winning on points, and he managed to get the stoppage there in the 6th round, like I say, and straight away they've announced the rescheduled date for him and Beterbiev, which will go down later this year, so that's absolutely brilliant. Again, it has to be said, though, that Beterbiev has now pulled out of his last 3 fights in a row with an injury and has had to have the fight rescheduled. That's led to a lot of question marks, to be honest with you. But I'll leave that there. Moving now, this was a fantastic fight here, I have to say. Daniel Dubois, now 21-2. A TKO for him in round 8 against Filip Hrgovic, now 17-1. He loses his O. It was for the interim IBF heavyweight world title. Hrgovic, the cut, I think it was 1 cut or 2 cuts above his eyes. You know, the doctor decided to tell the referee that was it for him. Mad fight. Again, another upset in terms of actually looking at the odds, you know. Just like Willie Hutchinson upset the odds, this was an upset here because they expected Hrgovic to win this fight. And I said on last week's show, of all the fights on the entire card, Dubois was the biggest underdog of all those five 50-50 fights. Matchroom against Queensbury, 5 against 5, so that's obviously 5 fights with 10 boxers, and he was the biggest underdog boxer, being 2-1, 3.5-1 to win by KO, which of course he did in the end, and I tipped that in my boxing betting group, so there was a few happy people in there. But yeah, the first round was all Hrgović, you know. He got Dubois walking into shots, walking into right hands, you know, and he was taking them well, but I just thought, like, this is an awful start. We knew that Hrgović was extremely confident going into the fight just because of those sparring sessions he had with Dubois, when Dubois was a little bit of a pup, to be totally honest with you. And, you know, everyone kind of said that he had his way with him in sparring, so he went into this supremely confident, and straight away in that first round it was quite a torrid start for Dubois, and I thought to myself, the writing's on the wall here. But no, he went back to his corner after getting through that first round, Dubois, and sat down on the stool, and Don Charles was trying to talk to him. Dubois was getting distracted, looking outside of the ring. Don Charles was saying, look at me, listen to me. And I just thought, what on earth is going on here? Didn't seem to listen to him. But then he comes out in the second round and he had success, you know, with a few big shots. It was an exciting first 2 rounds, and every shot from both guys was with mean intentions, really. And as the rounds went on, though, you know, Dubois grew in confidence, and like I say, he opened up 2 cuts on Hrgovic's eyes, and, you know, he had to weather a couple of storms here and there, but then Hrgović just seemed to run out of gas badly, and it really, you could really see that pace that you talked about, Eddie, on last week's show. It just really dropped, and Dubois was starting to take the fight to Hrgović, putting him on the back foot now, and both guys, you know, at times showed tremendous chins, I really have to say. But yeah, the referee in the end stops it on the cut, you know, from the advice of the doctor, and Dubois was already in kill mode by, I think, round 7. It was no way going to go the distance, you know. He'd really got to Hrgović in round 7. It was a big round for Dubois. Round 8 was already, you know, a big round for Dubois. Obviously, we didn't see the round actually conclude properly, but, you know, Dubois was going to get him out probably in the next round or whatever. Hrgović seemed absolutely zapped, and Dubois was just, at this point, full of confidence, had no respect for what was coming back at him. And I'm so happy for Dubois, you know. He seems like a nice guy. He's upset the odds once again, because a lot of people last time, including you, Eddie, said that, you know, Jarrell Big Baby Miller would win against him. So he's gone out to Saudi and upset the odds twice in a row. I like the guy. And, yeah, I'm just over the moon for him. And I think with that win there, he solidifies himself for sure as a top 10 heavyweight. Some people would say top 5. There's just so many guys in that top 10. I think the top 10 is more like a top 15. But Dubois is right up there now as a solid contender with 2 great wins in a row. I mean, the loss to Usyk, I don't think you can discredit him too much for. Look what Usyk's gone on to do. But the loss to Joyce seems a long time ago now, and some people would favour Dubois going into a rematch with Joyce if that were to happen. But that's another story. That's a tangent. Excellent for Dubois already.
Yeah, I can't say enough about the resilience, the determination to keep going. I'm thinking that the fight was going to be the opposite. I was thinking that Dubois may have started good and strong and landed some big shots, but as the fight started to move toward the end, that maybe he would somewhat blow a gasket, but not completely, but you would see the pace start to slow, because I'm figuring he's going to be trying to keep up with Hrgović, because Hrgović is a busy guy, throws good amount of punches, he throws punches to hurt, body, everything. So I was expecting that, which it kind of he was doing, but Dubois just stayed with it. He stayed with it. I don't know what the game plan was, but I think it was more than just what the game plan was. I think it's his heart and his determination and his skill level. You know, he's a little better than, you know, a lot of people, you know, that some people want to give him credit for. And obviously he's a strong guy and he punches really hard. And I think that overshadows some of the other things that he does have. Now, I think he's a very basic guy, which some really good boxing heavyweights can, you know, exploit. But his heart and his willingness to do and fight, and his willingness to do things and exchange and fight at a pace that may not even favor him, it's something to respect. It's something to admire. You know what I mean? Because a lot of guys don't like getting out of their comfort zone. For whatever reason, he doesn't seem to mind, and I think that's what has changed things for him over these last couple fights since the fight with, God dang, I can't get his name out right now, since the loss he had with Joe Joyce. I think he's just completely made, well, he's made I'm not want to say a 180 because he was already doing well even before that, but now he's really starting to even pick it up even further. And I think, the ones that think he's top 5 can't be too mad at that. You know what I mean? But he's definitely within the conversation. I think, him, Zhilei Zhang, a lot of these guys should be now really thought of as one of the top guys. I mean, obviously you got, Wilder obviously fell out of that whole conversation, but, you still got Anthony Joshua, Usyk, and of course Tyson Fury that's up there. But I think you can start to put some of these other guys here in the conversation. And I think that they may be like a little bit of a underdog in a situation with some of the, with the 3 big guys, but damn, it's going to be very interesting throughout the fight. I mean, I think obviously Usyk has beaten Dubois, and I think he's probably going to, separated himself a little bit with the win with Tyson. But yeah, man, for the most part, and I believe Tyson could beat Usyk, but he still has to do it first. So, you know what I mean? But I think these other guys, I think, talk about Zhang, you talk about, Dubois, I just think their level, their boxing ability is good and they're tough and they're strong, but I just think Tyson could outbox them as well as Usyk. But I don't know. It's just the division, honestly, looks really exciting because I think there's just so much shuffling around right now. You know what I mean? It looks like there could be some interesting fights made within it. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy for Dubois. I'm happy for Zhang. I just want to see it continue to get better. And I want to see more guys get involved. I want to see some of the young guys come up too and start to really make the division. Like you said, it might be like even a top 15 now. And I want it to continue to be that. I want these guys to really make, for lack of a better term, make the division great again. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, but it's an excellent thing. These guys are doing really well. Look forward to the future.
Eddie, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but you were saying there about Dubois and how you feel like some of the, the kind of top 3 guys, as you said, would be able to outbox him. And I make you right. But guys like Dubois, and a couple of other guys, at his kind of same ranking, those sort of guys that are pushing top 10, whatever. Especially Dubois, though, he's got a puncher's chance against all these guys, but not just a normal puncher's chance where like you can land a shot and take him out. I'd say he's got a big puncher's chance, and the reason why I say that is because Tyson Fury can be hit. Joshua can certainly be hit. And even though we give Usyk so much credit for being such a fantastic technician, a boxer tricks, he's a master of distance and stuff, he gets hit a lot, obviously, especially because he's given away height. And it just reminds me, this is a time where I appreciate Vladimir Klitschko so much, to think he reigned for as long as he did, and yet he got hit much less than all these guys, and he reigned for so much longer, man.
Yeah, I cannot disagree and fault for what you're saying. That's a really educated response too. And without a doubt, he does, especially because the vulnerability of all 3 of the top guys. We've seen it. So it's not to say that he doesn't have a chance to win. He absolutely does. And when you called it like a puncher's chance, but a little bit more, I think, yeah, especially with a guy like, I would say AJ, but even with Tyson. And the reason why I say with Tyson is because he could be in there having so much success and doing so well, just like he was doing with Usyk. And then all of a sudden get caught because of not staying true and doing what Vladimir used to do and stay safe. And I know it's not exciting. The vulnerability is what makes it even more exciting. to watch Tyson fight these other guys. But sometimes, man, you got to buckle down and just do what people may not like. Because you got to secure the win. You got to secure the bag. There's no question about it. You can't just go out there and think entertainment all the time. Yes, entertainment is important. If you can do it within your the confines of being safe and making sure that you're not getting knocked out or caught or hurt, then cool, that's fine. Make it look good. But if it's going to risk you getting hurt and getting put in a situation where you can lose, then why do it? Especially at that time. You know what I mean? So Dubois, without a question, absolutely, as well as Zhang, both of them. And even when you go further down and talk about Jesus, what is wrong with my mind right now? I guess I got the boxer's brain. Jared Anderson and guys like that who are coming up, they have more than just a normal chance to win these fights. So yes, I agree. I couldn't agree with you more. But I still do think those top three guys are still above. And I think until these other ones that we're talking about who are contenders to those titles prove that they can do it by obviously getting the opportunity, but also with continuing their resume and their march toward it, it still remains to be seen. So, I mean, like I said, that's why the division is what it is right now. And I think there's a lot of guys out there, but it's going to be freaking extremely interesting as it goes forward, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, and talking of the top three guys, one guy that used to be a top three guy, but after the other night absolutely is not part of that top three in anyone's mind anymore. Deontay Wilder now 43-4 with a draw. A TKO loss for him in the 5th round against Zhilei Zhang, now 27-2 with a draw. Wilder down prior to the stoppage. Yeah, I mean, I was super excited about this fight. I think we talked about it on last week's show. There was no way in the world it was going to go the distance at all. Yeah, you know, trying to remember most of it now, but I remember obviously Wilder coming out, seemed really confident and all the rest of it when he walked into the venue. He came out wearing another suit again, you know, really nice boxing costume to come out to, and it was like, yeah, this is the old Wilder, you know. He seemed to be kind of giving off that energy that he had once upon a time. We didn't see it for a little while. He seemed to be back, and I really believed him when he said he was a bit rusty against Joseph Parker, but now he's back and he's still the bronze bomber. But yeah, got in the ring, and straight away, first round, Zhang is the man coming forward, which isn't too surprising. You know, I thought that Deontay Wilder would try to walk him onto a right hand. He barely threw that right hand. Again, that's not super unusual for Wilder. Sometimes he doesn't really let go of it in the first round, but you normally see it within the first two. So if it's not the first round, he's definitely going to plant it on you in round two. But yeah, just very, very, I don't know if it's gun shy or nervous or whatever, but Zhang come out and just put it on him, you know. He put his size on him, he popped the jab in his face a few times, let him feel the power of his punches, the weight behind them, and Wilder just kind of went into a little bit of a shell. There was times where Zhang would kind of pin him in the corner and unload like, you know, hard thumping shots. You can tell Zhang's got that thudding power rather than that kind of snappy stinging power. And he'd just, you know, throw these hooks to head and body, and they were big, you know, slabby punches. And Wilder at times would kind of just take a few of them and try and fire back with something out of desperation, but it would miss. I think in the second round or third round, Wilder did actually land a couple of his right hands on Zhang. I don't know if he just... I don't know if he just didn't have enough power on it, or Zhang just was able to take it better than most people. I don't know, because that's the thing about Wilder. He would knock people out and the punch wouldn't even look like much. So I can't look at his punch and go, well, he didn't catch him the same way he caught that guy, because that is how he caught him. He just touched them on the whiskers and they'd be asleep, or they'd be on the floor with their body shaking and their leg flapping up and down. You know, he had scary power. And he was hitting Zhang with his right hands. And like I say, I don't know how hard Zhang was being hit, but they seemed to not bother him at all. They were just bouncing off his big chin. And yeah, obviously, Zhang just put that pressure on, and credit to Zhang as well. He came in lighter. He seemed like, in relatively good shape. Maybe the best shape I've ever seen Zhang in, by the way. And obviously, again, Eddie, we talk about it a lot. Wilder come in super, super light. He came in, you could see his legs were super skinny, and there was a big weight difference. I think it was it 68 pounds, something like that. I think off the top of my head, might have been 58. It was somewhere around 60 odd pounds. But yeah, Zhang was able to get to him in the end, man, and he caught him with that shot, of course, that he just kind of clipped him. I think it was with a right hook from his lead hand. Zhang, obviously being in that southpaw stance, he caught Wilder. It seemed to daze Wilder a little bit. Obviously, he turned his back. I think it was a little bit momentarily dazed, and then he turns back round right into Zhang's right hook. Zhang had obviously chased after him, and as soon as he turned around, boof, gets caught with that shot, and you just knew he's not getting up from that at all. To give him credit, he did try and get back up, didn't he? I think he might have actually beat the count, but they waved it off. Yeah, that's potentially the end of the road there for Wilder. Thoughts on the fight, Eddie, and Wilder's future, I think, is a question that we should think about.
Yeah, man. I mean, like I said, I think Zhang is an awesome person. I met him and trained a little alongside him, sparred with some guys around. Never had a chance to really spar with him, so I can't tell you how the Big Bang feels, pause. But that's why I said pause. Yeah, like he's not just a big puncher. You know what I mean? That's another thing that you don't want to get too confused with. He does have IQ. He understands the southpaw stance, the angles. It's just that his power is probably the biggest highlight of what he does, and it's because it's the easiest to see. Oh, and also with his size and being a bigger guy. So it's you can't overlook that. And the thing that made me say with the fight was that why I kind of picked Wilder is because that, the mystique of that right hand is still there. And the fact that, he's fighting a southpaw, and we all remember the Luis Ortiz, and Luis Ortiz is an excellent boxer, come from that Cuban school, and he knows how to box, and he's also a big puncher. And really, and he can move better. He was faster. All of these things, that he has, I would say seemingly over Zhang in that. But obviously Wilder was able to get him out of there. So I'm thinking about that. But then that's also a younger Wilder. That's a more confident Wilder. That's it's a different stage in his career at this point. And that's not taking anything away from Zhang at this stage, because we all see what Zhang can do. But it's just I would expect him being there. And remember, Zhang is not a person that you got to go and find. He's going to be right there. You know what I mean? Even though, like I said, he has the IQ, he knows how to throw certain shots. He's good. He's talented. It's just he's going to be there to be hit. And if there's a chance for Wilder to land his right hand, he's going to land it, which he did at a point in the fight. But it's just I don't know if maybe Zhang, like you said, his beard is just really good. You know what I mean? Meaning his chin. If he's got a great, he does obviously have a really good chin. I mean, I've seen guys hit him, guys who can punch, Hergovich and all of these other guys, even with Joe Parker and Joe Joyce, and he still just keep coming so he's obviously got a great chin. But to take Wilder's right hand like that and continue to come forward, it's like, wow. And then to see Wilder's weight being so low and him being so thin. And then I think also Wilder's focus now is a little different to what he's trying to do. And I think it could be a bit confusing to somebody like that who, no disrespect, but has somewhat remedial skills when it comes to boxing. His right hand was the thing that set him apart from everybody else, and that knockout power. But it's, now that the trick is figured out, now the guys know what's coming, they're expecting it, they're seeing it. And I guess he's trying to now build on that or become a more well-rounded boxer, and it's just kind of late in the game to do it. I think that focus should be more more put into how to make that right hand more potent. I just don't think that was what the case was, and I think that's part of what his downfall has been recently. Of course, age has got something to do with it, but and obviously those 3 fights with Tyson Fury has a lot to do with it. And it's just a number of things on Wilder's side that he's looking at, and his future is in jeopardy of going forward because of a lot of the things that happen. And a lot of times these guys, when you fight at the elite level and you have 3 fights like you did with Tyson Fury and guys like that, the rest of your career sometimes after that doesn't really look as bright. And the reason is because that takes a lot out of you. And then to get ready and go to camp and spar for rounds against other tough guys that are up and coming, it's a lot to have to deal with. So for people that are saying, damn, looking at Wilder and saying, that might be it, they're not wrong. They're not wrong to think that. I'm not going to sit here and say that all of a sudden he can't have some kind of crazy resurgence if, certain things get, dealt with, and maybe he goes home and, actually really takes a good look at himself and understands where he's at, and maybe him and Malik or him and someone else, I don't understand. I don't know what that dynamic will be in the future, but figure it out. He could possibly come back, but last looks, it just doesn't look good. Most people are saying, hey, I think he should retire. At least look at that. I mean, I know he's a proud man. I know he's, he wants to, continue, and it's hard to when them lights dim and you're not in the spotlight anymore. It's really difficult for a lot of these guys who, they come out, sometimes with their mink coats on, and they come and watch, and everybody coming up to them, champ, this and that and the third, and it's hard to sometimes, let that go. You know what I mean? Sometimes when you come out to their fights, they're coming out like you got the nice outfit on you. Everybody looking at Wilder, they chant his name. Bro, it's hard to go, off into the sunset and leave that behind. It's hard. So, I hope for his sake he can say to hell with this, and realize that his health is more important for him, for his daughter, and for whoever else is in his life. And if he can do that, and move on to the next stage, because he got so much more living to do, I think it's probably a good idea. You know what I mean? Taking those big punches from guys like Zhang, Fury, Usyk, Joshua, fucking Ngannou, whoever the hell's out here, Dubois is just not a good thing if you're not going to be at 100%. And he doesn't look to be 100% Wilder anymore. So I think it's time to think about that. As well, as far as Zhang goes, sky's the limit. He's older too, so let's not forget that. He's been boxing for a long time, but he looks still good. He looks like he's ready to challenge for that gold. So, hey, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with Zhang, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Wilder decides to do with the rest of his career, if there's still going to be one. But I would tell him to say, before he even does the retirement, and not just do it on an emotion, I would just tell him to have a nice long sit down with his family, you know what I mean, with his team and with everybody who's been a part of that Bronze Bomber team, whatever, and really think about, his future, and really talk about it seriously, and make a decision coming up.
All the best to both men, but yeah, really happy for Zhang, to just defy science at his age. He's been in there with some really good fighters of late, obviously lost to Joseph Parker, but that aside, he's just been in unbelievable form, beating Joyce twice, stopping him, now Wilder. This is something that no one would have predicted maybe 2-3 years ago, so amazing for Zhang. Moving up the card once again, Hamza Shiraz with a win. He is now 20-0, a TKO for him in the 11th round against Austin Ammo Williams, now 16-1, Williams down in the 10th round. I gave Williams a better chance than most, actually. Shiraz, though, he was just really, really, really good, I felt. I don't think the commentary team gave Amo Williams enough credit, mind you, but I did think Shiraz was very, very good, very impressive, far more dominant than I thought he'd be, and he didn't give much away all night, to be honest with you. So yeah, he was dominant, he was smart, and I just want to say once again, you know, the train marches on, or carries on, or whatever the saying is. You know, he's improving all the time. He's improved so much under Ricky Funes. I think they are such a good match together, trainer and fighter. He's now put together 14 KOs in a row, which of course is the most in British boxing right now of any current fighter. And yeah, he's just in unreal form. So great to see him pick up another win, and I'm sure they love him out there in Saudi. And of course, last but not least, Raymond Ford, friend of the show, now 15-1 with a draw, dethroned of his WBA featherweight world title, a split decision over 12 rounds against Nick Ball, the new champion, now 20-0 with a draw. Yeah, you know, Nick Ball was just his usual self, relentless Eddie. We knew what to expect from him. You made a massive point on last week's show, and it was really good as well, listening back to the points you made. They were so accurate. You know, you know exactly what Nick Ball is and what he brings to the table. And yeah, you know, early on, Ray was landing with some nice sharp counters here and there, but for the most part, he was being outworked and overwhelmed, I felt. In round 7, though, after Nick Ball had picked up, you know, a bunch of rounds, there was a little tiny bit of a turning point. You know, Ford caught Ball with 2 massive shots. They were beautiful shots, and he definitely staggered Ball, but then Ball's legs came back quite quickly. I was very surprised. Nick Ball's nose, I think, went in the 7th as well. But yeah, I wasn't strictly scoring it round by round, but I did feel that Nick Ball won the fight. I think I gave Ford like maybe 4 rounds. I don't think I would have given him 5. I certainly wouldn't have gave him 6 or 7. I think the right man won, but yeah, Ray Ford did have a lot of success late on. I think if you're scoring that fight and maybe you're thinking, wow, the start of this fight, that's a Ball round, wow, how many rounds am I going to give to Ball in a row? That one was a closer round, let's give that one to the champ, just out of sympathy. Then if you do that a couple times early on, and then Ray Ford legitimately does win a few rounds late on, then you could make a case maybe for Ray Ford. But I think if you're scoring it completely fairly, Nick Ball, particularly with that left uppercut, he kept catching Ray Ford with it. Ray Ford, man, he's a tough guy. What a chin. And I'm sure he'll be back. He's already ruled out another fight at featherweight. He said he's going up to 130 now. I think that's a brilliant move for him. There's so many guys there that I think he would be able to step in the ring with and beat. But yeah, he's a dog, and yeah, I don't think we're going to see that rematch. I think he probably got paid quite nicely. He wanted to fight in Saudi. He got the fight in Saudi, but it's a shame we probably won't see the rematch because it was a great fight. But for me, the best man won. Eddie, I know you didn't see the fight in its entirety, but what can you tell us?
Yeah, I could tell you that I was damn right, goddamn. It's like, no. But, you know, the thing that I was hoping for Ray was that he understood what he was really dealing with until it was too late. And I think obviously that was what the case was. I didn't get a chance to really watch it. So I want to watch it in its entirety before I completely, you know, give what I, you know, oh yeah, I knew it. You know, not that. I picked Ray to win. You know what I mean? Because I figured his boxing ability, his angles, the things he does would be able to eventually, you know, because I knew Nick Ball was going to come out early and try to take control of the fight because he's so explosive, low to the ground, can't really move him. You're going to be going backwards. So that's what I knew early on. So I was figuring maybe as the fight wore on, Ray would catch him with shots coming in, certain angles, hitting him with the jab. You know what I mean? Just giving him fits in that as the fight went on, that he would get the end of the fight, maybe the last four rounds or so. You know what I mean? And maybe, you know, grab a couple, maybe 3, 4, like maybe 3 early, maybe 2. I mean, you know, obviously that'd be a draw, but you know what I'm saying. But I think that from what I'm hearing, Nick Ball's reign in the fight just lasted too long. And I kind of was worried about that because I know how, like from watching him fight Isaac Lowe and fighting a couple of the other fights I've seen him fight, he doesn't let up. He's there. And you think, damn, he got to slow down. But a lot of times these guys who are hitting him beforehand anyway, I know Ray's tough, and that's why he kind of changed the tide a little bit. But the guys that were hitting him before didn't do enough to him to keep him from coming. He was going to keep coming regardless. And I think that's the difference with this fight versus those other fights. You know what I mean? But I knew this was going to be Ray's toughest fight, without a doubt. I was just hoping that he could control the range a little better, keep him from just walking in, jumping in, being his normal explosive self. And the thing is, a lot of people look at his height as a disadvantage, and it's just not that. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing with Cruz. You know what I mean? With Pitbull Cruz. Him being a shorter guy, it plays into their style so much. So it makes and then it makes them hard targets too at times. So you gotta, these guys, like the two that I just mentioned, are really forces to be to be reckoned with. They're hard fights for anyone. Now, will they possibly lose coming up? You know what I mean? Fighting some of the guys that they're facing and some of the fights that are on the table for them both. You never know. Yeah, probably, maybe. But I'm gonna tell you, whoever they fight, they're gonna know that they were in a fight, and that, I think, is what makes this such a, these two guys such a puzzle, man. But as far as Ray, I still think the sky's the limit. I still think he got a lot. He's got the ability, like you said, he got the toughness. He's not just the normal run of the mill, like real slick boxer, but can't take it. He can take it and he can give it. And that's what makes him, it's going to make him even more exciting to watch as he moves up in weight. I would love to see him fight Nick Ball. Well, I didn't even see the first one, but believe me, I'm going to watch it. Because I'm hearing great things. But also, I would like to see him fight again and just see if there's any real adjustments that can be made. Because this kind of, like you said, the fight was that good that this kind of fight could be a trilogy if somehow Ray can work it out. But man, both of these guys, I'm looking forward to their careers and seeing where they go.
Well, there we go. That brings the review part to a close. It's now time to welcome this week's very special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the undefeated two-time IBF Cruiserweight champion of the world. It's none other than Mr. Jai Opetaia. Jai, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, what's going on, man? Thanks for having me.
Hey, the pleasure's mine, Jai. So, yeah, we're speaking a couple of weeks after your win over Mairis Briedis. How do you assess your performance looking back now? Obviously, it's been enough time, but yeah, fantastic rematch.
Yeah, it's good, you take a lot from fights like that, a good 12 rounds. Mairis Briedis is a great fighter. We learn, and I feel like that's a fight that's going to make me a better fighter in the future. So, it's all positive.
And do you see any parallels with the first fight? Do you think that both fights had similarities at all?
Yeah, they did actually. Just the sort of the last couple of rounds. Him coming on strong, and the injuries. Like the first one, I struggled with the broken jaw in the last couple of rounds. He was chasing after it, and then the second fight, the head clash broke my nose, and then he was sort of trying to come home strong after that as well. So, but it was good, he's a great fighter. He really showed his experience. It's a good learning curve.
No, absolutely. And yeah, it was a great fight. I personally felt you probably won the first 9 rounds, but yeah, as you say, Briedis finished really strong. Obviously, you'd boxed twice in that interim period between the two Briedis fights. Briedis hadn't fought at all. Coming back into that rematch at 39 years of age, is that testament to just how good a fighter Briedis is?
Definitely. I feel like he's... he, like I said, he really showed his experience. He's world class, and he proved it. Like I know how hard I train and how you know, and like just with the preparation I've had and the sparring I was doing. So, you know, for him to put on a good performance and he actually boxed really well. You know, just trying to find holes in his sort of his game plan and stuff. He wasn't giving me much to work off. It was a chess match, you know. He like I said, he showed his experience. He's been up the top for a long time, and that's why. So.
And I'm sure that you feel that you're the best cruiserweight in the world, absolutely. But where does Briedis rank after you?
To be honest, my personal opinion, I feel like Briedis beats all the other belt holders. You know, I feel like he's still world class. He's one of the hardest fights in the cruiserweight division for sure.
Yeah, I tend to agree. What do you make of some of those other champions there? Obviously, you've got, you know, 3 other guys holding the 3 other belts: Chris Billum-Smith, Gilberto Ramirez, and Noel Gevor. Yeah, what's your thoughts on those guys, if you have any, Jai?
You know, there's no bad fighters. You know, they're all decent fighters, but you know, I personally believe I beat them all. You know, and I'm chasing those fights. You know, we want the unification fights. We've been pushing for them, so hopefully we get them now. That we've got the mandatory out of the way and we've got the IBF back. So, you know, I'm really hoping to get a unification fight in the next couple of months.
And obviously, you're a 2-time world champion, despite not losing the title in the ring. What is the goal? I mean, you say there about a unification. Is the kind of ultimate goal to become undisputed at cruiserweight?
Definitely. You know, we want to win all the belts, and you know, we just want to keep pushing forward and go up. You know, at the end of the day, I can only fight whoever they put in front of me, but I will be chasing the unification fights for sure.
And Jai, ideally, if it were completely in your hands, who and when would you want to fight next?
Honestly, does not bother me. Just, I want these fights as soon as possible. Line them up and let me get it done. You know, it's something I've been chasing for a long time now. So I'm sick of talking about it. You know, these guys say they're the best. They want to, you know, unify the division. Like, well, I don't know one boxer that doesn't want to win more world title belts. You know what I mean? Like, that's why we're in the sport, is to prove that we're the best in the division. So, you know, I just feel like we're beating around the bush. You know what I mean? Taking silly fights. And if you're not a part of the Riyadh season, you're missing out. So, you know, I'm the cruiserweight here in this Riyadh season. So, if they want to be a part of it, come and get it.
And I want to get your thoughts as well on the Bridgerweight division. Are you a fan of that division existing, or is it confusing for boxing?
No, why not? You know, I feel like there should be another division between the light heavies and cruiser as well. You know, I feel like that 10 kilo jump is just ridiculous. But you know what? It doesn't do any harm to us. It's good that they have a division. Like, gives more boxers more opportunities, more fights. You know, it's a division that can be made. You know, like heavyweights coming into it, cruiserweights going into it. Like, it's a division that can be built up pretty well, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a fair take. And obviously you boxed on the undercard of Fury Usyk. I'm guessing you probably watched it from ringside. What's your reaction to that fight? It was a fun fight.
Yeah, I actually didn't get to watch the fight. I had to go to the hospital straight after my fight because my nose, so they had to take me in there. But I've only watched bits and pieces, and I've heard a lot about it. But what I've heard, it was a good, great fight. You know, like a back and forth sort of good heavyweight fight, man. So I'm sort of, you know, just blessed to be a part of such a huge event. You know, and I'm hoping to get on the undercard of the rematch in December as well.
Yeah, we'd love to see you on the undercard, man, for sure. Yeah, my last real question for you, Jai. I like to ask this to everyone that I speak to from overseas because I get some really interesting answers. Favourite UK fighter, if you have one? It can be from any era. I'm not expecting you to be a historian on UK boxing, but if you have a favourite, or at least who springs to mind at least?
The first one that pops in my head would probably be like Lennox Lewis. I feel like he's just one of the greats. He's he's awesome, mate. I feel like he's a great fighter.
Yeah, that's one of the most popular answers for sure. We get that a lot. It's great to hear you say his name. It really is. Just before we wrap things up, Jai, if you've got any closing words to the listeners from all over the world, but particularly in the UK, I think, over the last few years, UK boxing fans have really took to you. We've seen you, completely destroy a couple of undefeated Brits, but we still love you to pieces.
Man, the love and support I've been getting from the UK fans has been, overwhelming. So I appreciate all you guys. Thanks for having me on the podcast, and I'm hoping to come back over and have a fight in the UK too.
We'd love to have you back. Jai, listen, it's been my pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm sure we'll speak again soon, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate it, mate. Take care.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part is the news part. There's one piece of news to mention. It's an interesting fight, Eddie, but we're not going to talk about it right now. We'll talk about it when it comes a bit closer to the actual fight happening. But weird fight. So we're going to see return to the ring for Daniel Jacobs. I wasn't so sure he'd box again. Off the top of my head, I can't remember seeing him since he won to Gabe Rosado in a fight that I felt he definitely lost to Gabe Rosado. I just want to have a little look here. Oh no, after that he lost to John Ryder. That was 2 and a bit years ago now. Since then John Ryder went on to box Canelo, went on to box Munguia, and then retire. Danny Jacobs hasn't done anything. However, I did actually think that he beat John Ryder but didn't get the decision. But anyway, he's back in the ring and he steps in with Shane Mosley Jr. over 10 rounds. That could be interesting there. It's a weird fight. It's my kind of weird. Moving now, though, to the preview part of the show. There's 2 cards to mention. We're going to see... let's start here with... There's a card happening tomorrow, Friday, and there's a card happening on Saturday. So I'm going to mention, actually, the Saturday one first, so I don't want to confuse anyone here. But anyway, basically, we're going to start here with the Saturday card. It goes down at the Madison Square Garden Theatre in New York, USA. It's going to be live on ESPN and ESPN+. We're going to start with I'm not entirely sure what the main event is, but I'm going to assume it is Xander Zayas. He's 18-0. It's a 10-rounder for him. He steps in with former world champion, the Brazilian Patrick Teixeira, who's 34-4. It's a step up, I think, for Zayas. I've seen a few people saying that, it's not much of a step up, but I don't understand why. I think that it's a decent step up. I mean, there's no more really to say about it. Teixeira, I think, has been a little bit inactive off the top of my head. I don't remember him fighting too often, sort of since losing the belt. He lost the belt back in, that's a bit of a test now. Whatever year it was, I don't think he's been super active since then. I think he lost it to Brian Castano. Hasn't been super active, but he's coming off 3 wins in a row, all by KO within 4 rounds, and he gets in with, and generally he's a tough guy. He's only been stopped once in his 4 losses. He's been in with some good fighters, and like I say, gets in with Xander Zayas, who is a very good prospect, but I feel like this one could go the distance, and I think the odds on that are very, very good. By the way, I can't remember them off the top of my head, but they're expecting Zayas to wipe him out, and I'm not entirely sure that's going to happen. Also on the card, we're going to see Bruce Shoo Carrington, another really good prospect, 11-0. He's back in a 10-rounder at featherweight. He was going to be stepping in the ring with Enrique Vivas. However, that fight's fallen through now. Vivas had issues getting to the fight due to a delay with his visa. So instead of that fight there, we're going to be seeing Shoo Carrington step in with late replacement, very, very late replacement. Brian, where's it gone now? Brian DeGracia, I should say, who's 29-3 with a draw. He's got He's got 25 KOs to his name, though. I've definitely seen him before. Can't think where off the top of my head. But yeah, that's the replacement opponent. And also on that card as well, Delante Johnson, 12-0, steps in with Tariq Zayner, who's 13-1 with a draw. That's the 3 big fights on that card there in New York. That's an 8-rounder, that one, by the way, at super lightweight. Moving now, though, to the other card to mention. It goes down on Friday, so tomorrow, June the 7th, at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Hollywood, Florida, USA. I was seriously thinking about going to this card. I was really actually going to fly out there, but ended up not doing it in the end. But I'll be watching it. I think it's on Fight TV, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's a decent card, but obviously £20 to watch it on an app is a bit annoying, but I'm just going to have to do it, I think. But anyway, on this card, we're going to see... let's start with this one here, Eddie. It's the main event, actually. Adrian Broner, 35-4 with a draw. I'm going to come to you straight away. You know both guys extremely well. Blair Cobbs in the other corner, 16-1 with a draw. I was quite interested to see if they made Blair Cobbs an underdog, because I felt like initially he might be a bit too busy, a bit too active, and might be able to beat Adrian Broner on points. I don't think he's going to stop him. Broner's always shown a good chin, but I felt like he could outwork him. However, I've noticed now that Blair Cobbs has actually been made the favourite, so I'm not entirely sure that's a bet worth taking. But anyway, interesting fight.
Yeah, definitely interesting fight. Two personalities. Like, both of these guys got crazy personalities. Like, they're both outspoken. It's both, well, I mean, in Blair's case, he's just like a colorful kind of guy with it, but he talks a lot of crap. You know what I mean? So does Adrian Broner. It's just that I think, even with Blair Cobbs losing this last fight and everything, I still think they're on like different stages of their career.
No. Blair Cobbs came back after the loss to Rocha. He's had one since then. He beat Maurice Hooker. He looked really good, but it was almost 2 years ago now.
Right. My fault. That was. I was going to qualify that, and I forgot about that. But even though the last time I remember seeing him was the loss to Rocha, right? But I still think they're, with the loss he had before, and obviously he's back winning. I just think they're at two different points in their career a little bit. I think Blair, being obviously younger, got a little, he doesn't have the same, number of tough fights and fights in general that Broner has had, and hasn't had the same knots, you know what I mean, that Broner has. And then, to be honest, like, I think Adrian has a great amount of skill and a great amount to give in boxing, but I just think, I don't want to say that he what's the word I'm looking for? He underachieved. I'm not going to sit there and say he did that, but I just think with his ability and what he was capable of and what most thought he was going to do, like, we thought he might have been at one point where Gervonta Davis is, as one of the faces of boxing, one of the biggest, especially in the lower weight classes, one of the most recognizable faces. Now, he is still recognizable, but it's not necessarily his in the ring antics. It's more so his out the ring things that are, some of the stuff forgettable. You know what I mean? But yeah, press. No press is bad. I guess in certain areas when I guess we're trying to stay relevant. But as far as his boxing career, like, he has so much ability. He can do so many things, you know what I mean? In there, he's got power, he's got boxing skills, he got speed. Maybe not the greatest power, especially up in the weight classes he's fighting now, but he got enough to get respect from you. You know what I'm saying? So I just think that if he could get himself together, get out of his own way, stop being emotional. I see a lot of like emotional shit from him. You know what I mean? Like, talking to, like, say, for example, with Al Bernstein and some of the stuff he's done and saying that. And I mean, I understand what he's saying. I understand where he's coming from, but we're fighting now. You know what I mean? You got to get out of that mentality. You know what I mean? Just talk. Just be up. It's press. This is what they do. They're gonna talk crap on you. They've talked crap on me. They've talked about Tyson Fury. They talk about Klitschko. They talk about fucking Canelo. They talk about everybody. And you can't have an attitude. You just got to let it roll off your shoulder and just continue to box, continue to do what you do. You know what I mean? And I think with him, he needs to get out of his own way. And if he does, I still think he can do something in boxing. It's getting a little late now, but you know what I mean? We'll see. As far as Blair, I think this style matchup is not great for Adrian Broner at this stage in his career. He doesn't like throwing a lot of punches. So I think if Blair gets in there with his speed and his activity and movement, he can make it a real nightmare night for Adrian Broner, to be honest. But we'll see. Like I haven't seen Blair in a while, so I want to see. And I don't know if you noticed, but he came up in the same gym as I did. So
yeah, that's
I
why
was seeing.
You know him well.
Yeah, right. So I knew him before he turned pro. I knew him when he was a little kid in there, you know, moving around, throwing a lot of punches with his speed, crazy southpaw. I remember he used to spar Steve sometime, and he would do good sometime. Steve for the most part be able to handle the work, but Blair was a little bit of a problem. And then he started to like punch real well, and he started to get better and better. And I mean, it's good to see him up there, and it just shows that Schuler's Gym has some guns in there. You know, Julian J. Rock was from there. I'm from there. Yusef Mack, and there's a few other guys that I can't remember. Oh, like, you know, Hank Lundy. All of us, we was in that gym at one time or another and come through there. So it just shows how crazy Philly is that only one gym produced all those good fighters. So, yeah. But, yeah, looking forward to the fight. I would favor Blair at this stage at this stage, but Broner still has the ability, man. You know what I mean? So we'll see.
Yeah, interesting that you said Blair's the younger guy. I just instantly thought, hang on a minute, I'm sure that Blair is quite a bit older than we think he is. And yeah, they're both 34. Blair, though, was born in July. Adrian Broner was born in December. So Blair's about 5 months older than him. But yeah, sorry, not Blair. Sorry, other way round. Broner is July. Blair is December. So Broner is 5 months older than Blair. But anyway, yeah, not much really for me to add. I think Blair will probably be quite too active for Broner at this stage in his career. Honestly, if you look at Broner's career, even though he's coming off 2 wins against Bill Hutchinson, who I think was a part-time boxer, part-time accountant or something like that, the win before that against Giovanni Santiago, which I think, if my memory serves me right, was a close fight. Then obviously the loss to Pacquiao, the draw with Jesse Vargas, the loss to Mikey Garcia, the controversial win against Adrian Granados back in 2017. You've got to go right back to Ashley Theophane in 2016 for the last time that Adrian Broner actually looked good in a ring, I think it's fair to say, which is a long, long time ago. Blair Cobbs as well, coming with a trash talk. I've seen he now owns a puppet, an Adrian Broner puppet that he's brought to the press conference. He speaks in Broner's accent, doesn't he? Tries to do a Broner impression, and he's really learnt to do the puppet quite well. So that's been entertaining. He's absolutely crazy. He's a friend of the show, but a nice guy, I think, away from the spotlight. Also on the card as well, we should mention this is quite an interesting fight. I don't know how long he's been out the ring, but he's another guy who I think has just been massively inactive, and that man is Cuba's Uniel Dorticos, 26-2 these days, hasn't boxed since December of 2022. But I mean, when he was in the World Boxing Super Series tournament thing, obviously he was quite active at the time. I think he got in there with Dmitry Kudryashov, then he lost to Gassiev. After that, went a bit quiet, boxed Matthias Mastanek, beat him, boxed Andrew Tabiti, lost to Briedis in 2020, and then since then he's just had 2 fights. So really he's boxed once in 2019, once in 2020, once in 2021, once in 2022, didn't box at all in 2023, but he's back in the ring here tomorrow night at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. He steps in with Alan Camper, who is 19-9, but he's been stopped 5 times in his 9 losses. The 32-year-old Mexican, 6'1". He's lost 6 of his last 8, and he's been banged out by the likes of Darius Foljam, the likes of Aaron Silva, the likes of Beck the Bully as well, managed to stop him in 3 rounds. Jesse Hart stopped him in 5 rounds back in 2017, so this is going to be a Dulcicos KO for sure, even though he's been out the ring for, since December 2022, so a year and a half, whatever, something like that. But yeah, moving on to the final fight to mention. It's not the main event, but it is for the interim WBA heavyweight world title as far as I'm aware. It doesn't seem to be listed as that on BoxRec, but as far as I'm aware, I think that's right. We're going to see Michael Hunter, friend of the show, 22-1 with 2 draws, stepping in the ring with Cassius Chaney, another friend of the show, 23-1. Cassius Chaney last time coming off a great knockout win against Trevor Bryan. However, the fight wasn't that exciting up until the brutal knockout of Trevor Bryan. It was a very slow-paced fight, but he did get the stoppage. That was 6 months ago now. Michael Hunter, on the other hand, I mean, he's a friend of the show. Like, everyone knows I've got a hell of a lot of love for Michael Hunter, but he has been blowing hot and cold, and I think that's being polite. He was on a hell of a run at one point, beating Martin Bakole, beating Alexander Ustinov, beating Fabio Maldonado, Sergei Kuzmin, definitely beating Povetkin, but not getting the decision out there in Saudi. Come back and had a few low-level fights, stepped in the ring with Jerry Forrest, who we know Michael Hunter beat, I think, 7 years prior, completely shut him out on all cards 7 years prior, but then in the rematch manages to only draw with him, and it was a split draw, and in my honest opinion, I think he was quite fortunate to get the draw. Since then, he's had 2 fights against complete journeymen, and he's banged them out in a couple of rounds. However, he did have an exhibition fight about 6 or 7 weeks ago in, was it Uzbekistan? I think it was Uzbekistan. Boxed a guy. I mean, it was an exhibition, but they actually announced a winner. It was actually being scored, and the other guy won unanimously, and he didn't look very good in that fight. I only caught the last couple of rounds of it, but he did not look very good. So you'd have to say that he hasn't looked great in a ring against anyone of note for, since the Povetkin fight, to be totally honest with you. So that's a long time ago as well. Cassius Chaney, aside from his loss, which wasn't the best, losing to George Arias, who was completely exposed against Jared Big Baby Anderson. So that wasn't a good look. But then after that, knocking out Trevor Bryan, I think he's confident. He rates Michael Hunter. He won't be taking him lightly at all. He will not be taking him lightly at all. I remember actually interviewing Cassius Chaney years ago, and I asked him, what does he think about Hunter Povetkin that's coming up in a week or two? Because at that time, Hunter would be fighting Povetkin, and he actually was one of the few people picking Hunter to win that fight. He felt that Hunter would win, and he went on to say how much he rates him as a fighter, how he's a clever fighter. So he's known about Mike for a long, long time. He definitely isn't overlooking him. He feels that he is more athletic, and feels that, after all the experience he's got now, he will have too much for Michael Hunter. He is, though, 36 years of age, Cassius Chaney. Michael Hunter, the younger man, at 35. I don't know if that makes much of a difference, but Cassius Chaney's also the much taller guy. Michael Hunter listed at 6'2". Cassius Chaney, I think, off the top of my head, is about 6'6", maybe 6'5", something like that. My pick is, I've been thinking about this one since it got made. My pick is, I think I'm going to ride with Michael Hunter by KO. However, I think it'd be, looking back over his form there, it has got me a tiny bit worried. I can't see it going the distance. I absolutely cannot for the life of me see this fight going 12 rounds. But at the same time, I can't see Michael Hunter getting stopped. One interesting thing is that he had a bad cut opened in that exhibition 6-7 weeks ago. And I'm hoping that it's fully healed. If that comes open, we could easily see a TKO because of a cut for Cassius Chaney. However, Michael is the favourite, but he's about 2-1 to get a KO. The only thing with Cassius Chaney, he's got absolutely no gas tank. Michael Hunter doesn't, for me, have the best gas tank, but also sets a good pace and a fast work rate. I think it's going to be interesting because I think if he sets a high pace, then Cassius Chaney will blow out quicker than he does. But if he allows it to be a slow pace fight, then I think he gives Cassius a chance. But then at the same time, that might be a smart way to play it. I mean, it's a tough one. Yeah. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Can't see it going the distance, but I also cannot see Michael Hunter getting stopped by Cassius Chaney. So I guess that means by default, I'm going to have to go with Hunter KO. Yeah, so the odds are interesting at 2-1 for that. The bookies seem to expect Michael Hunter to win on points. Again, I just cannot see Cassius Chaney, hearing the bell, coming out, being on his feet after 12 rounds. His gas tank isn't the best thing he has. Eddie, thoughts on it before we wrap up the preview part? Final words would be yours.
Interesting fight. I've actually been in the ring with Cassius Chaney, sparring. He's not a complete idiot when it comes to boxing. His IQ is not bad. I mean, he's a better fighter than.
What a statement! Cassius Chaney is not a complete idiot.
Because like when you think of a big guy boxing, if it's not a Tyson Fury or a Klitschko or like a AJ or something like that, you would think. And even like with Wilder, people look at Wilder like Wilder got a decent enough IQ. He understands what he needs to understand about boxing. It's just his ability, skill wise, is just not there. But
so Chaney's not a big stiff idiot. No,
he's not. Absolutely not. And for those who don't know him, this is for people who don't know him. You know what I mean? Who don't really know a lot about him. He's got some cleverness with his game. You know what I mean? Like when I sparred him, I had to think. I didn't just, all right, he gonna fall for this. All right, he gonna fall for that. Where a lot of guys I sparred with who were supposedly good guys they made it pretty simple. So what I'm saying is this guy's not going to be just that easy to touch. You understand what I'm saying? Not meaning that, because Michael Hunter's obviously one of the most clever guys out there when it comes to boxing ability, and he's more athletic, he's faster, he's got a lot of things in his favor when it comes to that. But Cassius Chaney being 6'6", being able to, having a long reach, long range, good pop. There's quite a bit you got to pay for trying to close the distance there. If you're not careful, you run into something. So the fact that he's not a complete idiot, or you know what I mean, that's he's a good enough boxer. And I'm not gonna say he's not good. I mean, he's a good. When I say good enough, I mean he's to be able to beat or at least control the range against a guy smaller who's really talented. He has enough in his bag that he can do that. You know what I mean? That's like what I mean by that is he can box pretty decently, pretty good actually. But he's not obviously to the level skill-wise as what a Michael Hunter is. But then we got the range issue. So now Michael Hunter got to deal with the range. He's got to be able to get inside. He's got to land certain shots. He has the speed. He has the footwork. He has all those things he needs, but he's got to be able to access it at the right time, and he can't run into nothing. He can't get overzealous, and he can't get tired either. Neither one of these guys can afford to get tired, but in particular, he can't get tired by trying to, work hard. Because what Chaney can do, to be honest, is that he can use his size, he can use his range, he can use his weight to wear Mike down over the course of a fight if Mike allows it. If he tries, and then if he's trying too hard to get in range, he's throwing too many punches too soon. You know what I mean? I think he's just got to control his pace. He's got to look for the shots that are there. He's got to take the opportunities. He's got to use his speed. You know what I mean? He's got to break range often, make him miss, make him pay. If he can do that, Mike should be able to win. But don't count Chaney out, because he can fight actually, and he's not a bad skilled guy either. He's not no big stiff, believe me. So very interesting fight. I think Mike can probably. I don't I'm not to the same degree of you as you, Joe, thinking that it couldn't go the distance, because you know how many times we've seen recently these fights that we say, oh, it'll never go the distance, that has gone the distance. And I understand we're factoring in the fact that these guys' gas tanks aren't the greatest, but you never know, you know, and to be honest, I mean, I think Mike has the ability to stop him. I would pick him, you know, I would pick Mike, maybe get him out late, maybe, but as long as he just don't run into nothing early. You know what I'm saying? So, good fight. I think Mike might get him late. If not, you know, look at that decision thing. The decision thing might be something to put money on. You know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing. Well, no, you said the bookie said that they are going to go to decision. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Sorry. I don't know nothing about that anyway. So let me stay in my lane. But anyway, it's going to be an interesting fight. A lot more exciting than I think, you know, is given credit for. But yeah, it's an interesting fight. I'm just looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Cannot wait for that one. There's not too much boxing on this weekend, but that's a card, obviously, I'm looking forward to. I think there's a couple good fights anyway, but obviously Mike's fight, I'm gutted to not be there, to be honest with you. I was seriously thinking about flying out there. The hotels in Florida, though, right where it is, like this, you know, it's like I'd have to stay in like Fort Lauderdale, and it's so expensive to stay in hotels over there. But anyway, that's another story for another day. That is the end of the preview part. In part one, we did the review part. Then we welcomed our special guest, Jai Opetaia, which was fantastic having him on. And then in part two, we did the news. Then we did the preview part just there. The final thing for me to do is to come in with the outro, which I'll do in just a few seconds. Okay, and this wraps up episode 451 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A huge shout out to this week's special guest, the undefeated two-time IBF Cruiserweight World Champion, Mr. Jai Opetaia. The biggest thanks of all, though, goes out to you, the listeners. Thanks once again for tuning in. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we'll see you all again same time next week.